Lando led his fleet toward the Death Star, while Han, Leia, and the Ewoks approached the energy shield on Endor. At the same time, Luke was brought to the Emperor aboard the battle station.
Welcome, young Skywalker. I've been expecting you. Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design. Your friends on Endor are walking into a trap, as is your rebel fleet.
Luke looked out the window and saw an entire legion of Imperial Star Destroyers waiting for the rebels. On Endor, the rebels couldn't make a move. Stormtroopers were all over them.
Freeze, you rebel scum!
Suddenly, the stormtroopers were pelted with rocks and sticks as the Ewoks came out of their hiding places and attacked. The battle for Endor had begun. Meanwhile, Lando and his group came out of hyperspace, only to find the force field was still up and that Imperial TIE fighters were there waiting for them. Back aboard the Death Star, the Emperor grinned at the young Jedi.
From here, you will witness the destruction of the Alliance and the end of your insignificant rebellion.
Luke felt the dark side crawling within him. He controlled it as much as he could, but it was a tough struggle. His lightsaber was within reach. In a flash, it flew to his hand, and he swung at the Emperor. Vader's sword was there, instantly. The Emperor laughed maniacally as Luke's and Vader's swords clashed in a spray of sparks. On Endor, the Ewoks were gaining ground as the battle wore on. Now there were Imperial scout walkers blasting and smashing their way through the forest. But the Ewoks ambushed the machines by tripping them with vines and crushing them with logs. Meanwhile, Han and Leia were trying to enter the bunker. High above, Lando was leading an attack on the Imperial Star Destroyers until Han could get the shield down. But time was running out. He couldn't hold the Empire back for too much longer. Aboard the Death Star, Vader searched for the young Skywalker who had slipped into the shadows.
You cannot hide forever, Luke. Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way to save your friends. Your feelings for them are strong, especially for your sister. So, you have a twin sister. If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
No! Luke went for Darth Vader, slashing wildly. He pounded the Dark Lord with his lightsaber, forcing him to the floor. The Emperor laughed, and Luke suddenly realized what he had done. He tossed his weapon aside.
I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.
The Emperor raised his hands. Bright blue bolts of electricity shot from his fingers and zapped Luke.
If you will not be turned, you will be destroyed.
More energy struck Luke as he collapsed to the floor. Darth Vader struggled to his feet and stood beside his master. Meanwhile, the rebels and the Ewoks managed to defeat the Imperial troops. They had placed several bombs in the control room, and in a matter of seconds, the entire shield generator had exploded. Aboard the Millennium Falcon, Lando got word that the shield was down, so he restarted his attack run into the Death Star. Dodging the Imperial TIE fighters, Lando led the rebels through the superstructure and headed straight for the main reactor. Back in his chamber, the Emperor glared at Luke, twisting in pain on the floor.
Now, young Skywalker, you will die.
Again, he blasted the Jedi Knight. Vader looked at his doomed son, and then at his master. Suddenly, Vader grabbed the Emperor from the back and lifted him over his head. The Emperor's energy bolts were now blasting Vader as he carried his master over to an open pit. With one final burst of strength, he hurled his evil ruler over the edge. Then the great warrior fell to the floor. Luke crawled to his father's side and pulled him to safety. They were both too weak to move. Not far away, Lando and his team found the main reactor and fired at its supports. The massive structure began to collapse. Pursued by flames, the rebels headed for their escape route. Inside the battle station, Luke dragged his father to the ramp of a shuttlecraft.
Luke, help me take this mask off.
Luke then removed his father's breath screen and looked at the man beneath the mask.
Now go, my son. Leave me.
No. I can't leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have, Luke. You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
Anakin closed his eyes and was gone. After Luke pulled his father's armor aboard the shuttle, he lifted off from the docking bay. At that same moment, Lando, chased by flames, flew out of the Death Star. They both managed to escape just as the Death Star exploded in a giant fireball. Back at the Ewok village, the rebels celebrated their victory over the Empire, while Luke set a torch to his father's armor. As the smoke rose overhead, X-Wing fighters flew by, setting off fireworks in the sky. Elsewhere in the galaxy, there were similar celebrations going on. Off on his own, Luke saw the ghostly images of Yoda, Ben, and his father, smiling gratefully. The Jedi smiled back and rejoined his sister and friends. At last, freedom had been restored to the galaxy.